Today's episode of the Quinn Spinn is brought to you from The Russell, a historic East Nashville church transformed into a one-of-a-kind boutique hotel. The Russell's mission is to give back to the Nashville community through their Rooms for Rooms program by donating a portion of each stay to local nonprofits who are helping those experiencing homelessness. And of course, we're coming out of winter, but it was a cold one out there, and it's important this time of year, any time of year, to help those in need. So good on the Russell for stepping up for the community. Visit russellnashville.com to book your experience today. And by the way, this place is gorgeous. It's got this cool retro feel, and it's got this amazing podcast studio. So you can come in whenever you're in town, record a couple episodes, and go on your merry way and explore the city. russellnashville.com to learn more. Hey now, and welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of The Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, The Quinn. At least it's how I'm known here on the program, and at this point, really nowhere else. And I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. And you just heard Revel 9's All I've Become at the top of the show. That's been our opening theme song here at The Quinn Spinn since the great year of 2014, and it will be until the very end of days, and I'm very excited to be joined by my good friend and longtime colleague, Brandi Sims, the founder of Brandinc PR, a PR firm in Austin, Texas, with, of course, reach all over the world. And Brandi and I have always just such great conversations, and we figured it was about time to get one of them here on the show. Just talking about the state of creativity, the state of authenticity here as we all navigate the space of being a creative entrepreneur. And of course, we cover the best practices for public relations because Brandi is an expert, and who better but an expert to tell you the do's and don'ts, right? So I'm really excited about this. It's been a long time coming to have Brandi on the show, and it's coming at you right now. All right, everybody, here on The Quinn Spinn, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I have the honor and privilege of being joined today for the first time, believe it or not, on the show by a longtime colleague and friend, Brandi Sims, the founder of Brandinc PR, a PR firm based in Austin, Texas, and frankly, the PR firm that put us on the map a few years ago. So this has been a long overdue conversation. You had me on your podcast last year, so it's about time we return the favor, Brandi. So first of all, thanks for joining.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and just, it feels like just one of our calls where we just kind of dish about what's going on and all things entrepreneurship, right?
Exactly. And that is exactly what we're here for today. And of course, you work with so many creative people across industries, which is why I think this is going to be a very valuable conversation for the Quinn Spinn audience. But before we get there, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself in your own words, and I do that by asking the three standard questions. Those three questions are: who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
Well, I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so first question, who am I? I mean, I'm Dr. Brandi Sims, a newly minted doctor in strategic comms. So excited about that. Thank you. It was a long time coming, 7 years working on this, and now we are at the end. So definitely really proud of that latest achievement and recognition. But yes, outside of, the academic side of things, I'm so many things. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm also an entrepreneur, I'm a friend, I'm a sister, the list goes on. And, probably my proudest is being, a family member and being a friend, being a parent, being a wife. And then, of course, following that would be an entrepreneur and being a founder of Brandinc PR, which is my PR agency. As you mentioned, have had this for going on 6 years now, which is so crazy that we've reached this far, but we are here. But, that is, long time of work and effort to get to that point to be able to create something like this. So I'm just overwhelmed by the support that we received, working with you, working with so many incredible businesses, founders across the years. In addition, of course, to my 15 years of working in PR and communications, starting with, working with music brands from 18, 19 years old. and then escalating from there to beauty and tech brands. And then over the last 8 years, working on the sports side of entertainment and just growing from there with the latest one of our clients being players of the Texas Tailgaters, which are part of the Savannah Bananas, for those are our baseball fans. But yeah, I wear many hats. I do many things, but I definitely think, just to kind of sum it up, I'm someone in this field that is very passionate about the work that I do. It starts with, really understanding people. I think that at its core, it's really understanding people. That's what is such an important piece of communications. You have to understand people. And then from there, you get into the messaging side of things. So definitely my passions, it starts with communications as a whole. I absolutely love it. If I could do this for free, I probably would. I would find some way to get in this space, which I have in my younger days of just grinding and just trying to get experience. A lot of unpaid internships. I'll say this, and I know we've talked about it a lot, but definitely it's one of my major passions. And then after that, I would definitely say, oh my gosh, I'm such a book nerd. I'm such a book nerd, but I'm also an anime nerd, which I feel like a lot of people don't know that about me. Very, very passionate about arts, history, those types of things. But yeah, I have multiple hats, to say the least. But if it came down to my passions, absolutely comms. Absolutely, those things that just fuel me and interest me beyond just the normal level. Definitely love to learn about people, love to learn about history and just beyond, because I think all of the things are applicable. And then finally, why would I be on the show? I mean, goodness, it's been a long time coming. You came to my podcast when we first launched. And if I'm not mistaken, you were one of the first few episodes, if not the first episode.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, you were the inaugural episode, which I was so, so thankful for, especially given how long you've been in the podcast world. It was definitely an honor to have you on and be able to just talk about your career and your experiences. So say all that to say, I'm here now because I finally get a chance to be on the mic and be in the hot seat to talk to you about my career and just experiences and just share this with the audience. So definitely excited about this. And yeah, love to be on your crazy show.
It is a crazy show. It's been a wild ride over these past 12 plus going on 13 years, and we're glad to have you join that ride, Brandi. And so I want to start by, of course, giving some background on how you got here in the first place, right? As far as what inspired you toward the world of PR. As you mentioned, you've been at this for quite a while, working across many different verticals. And then 6 years ago, Brandinc PR comes into the fore, and you found this company based on that experience. So what first drew you to the world of PR, and then what fueled that entrepreneurial spirit to pursue launching your own company?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, I mean, if we want to rewind the time back, I mean, we've got a little time to go over this. But what inspired me, gosh, what inspired me to get in the PR and comm space was actually, funny enough, a reality TV show on MTV. And it was in the early days where we really didn't have a name for reality TV. It's just what it was. And in this particular show, MTV had a series called Power Girls with the PR kind of capitalized. And in this series, it follows Lizzie Grubman's PR firm, which is based out of New York, known for representing top celebrities at that time, including like Halle Berry. And I want to say Brandi as well. And on the show, it just follows her day-to-day life along with her interns and seeing what they work on behind the scenes and just what that looks like. And as, a preteen teenager, I looked at that and I was just in awe of how crazy it was working behind the scenes, working with celebrities, working with those in entertainment, and just all the ins and outs that came with it, the stressors, the challenges, the wins, the successes. I looked at that and I was just very inspired by everything that I was seeing. And to be honest, I mean, it was crazy as heck looking at all of that stuff. But I looked at it like, ooh, like this is a lot, but I think I found my people. Like, this is what I want to do when I grow up. And so from that point, by the time I was in high school, I had enrolled in a college nearby in Oklahoma. And I had said, okay, what can I do to better myself and learn as much as I can about this field so that I can be successful and I can be that go-to person for founders, for business owners, as well as brands. And so enrolled in college, started my degree in communications. I interned like crazy. One of my first internships was actually a Philharmonic orchestra, which is probably where I have like the kind of the connection and passion for history and arts and all of that other stuff, because it exposed me to so much within the arts community, from the actual art like design and painting to, ballet and classical music and just other forms of art. It really was something that I'm just incredibly thankful for that experience, but it did expose me to a lot very early on. So within that internship, I was managing the showcases, helping to, put together appearances for the performers at 18, 19 years old, and from that point, I just continued to pivot from one relationship to the next. I interned with them for about 3 years, found another internship, not in entertainment, but at a bank, because, eventually I need money, got to pay the bills. Like, I love this. This is an incredible field and this is an incredible organization, but I need some money. Like, I can't keep doing unpaid internships now that I've graduated. So I went into, the banking internship, learned a lot about finance, corporate side of communications, did a little bit of that for a few years. And then that's where, life happens. Met my husband, got married, ended up moving all over the place, ended up taking one of my early national brand opportunities, which was working with Tarte, which is a very popular vegan beauty brand that, if I'm not mistaken, they are Fortune 500 by this point, or if not close. But working with them, getting to see the corporate side of the beauty industry and how they handle communications and marketing, as well as Longtime, which is more of a global brand themselves. But working with some of those brands too, again, just that early exposure. Okay, I've seen it, how it's done on the local, regional level. Here's how it's done on the national level. Here's what you have to do and build upon from this area. And then from that point, I landed a job with a PR agency out in Virginia. By this point, we were living there for a few years. And it was a celebrity sports agency. And that's where I got exposed to the sports side of things, how to manage athletes that are actively on the field, not the ones that have retired, not the ones that played 10 plus years ago, but those that are working it right now, where they have real issues and real things that are popping up that we have to basically mitigate and deal with national media. High pressure, to say the least. But again, it was just great experience to learn and know how things work on this side of entertainment, and what the expectations are from that scale and that level, as well as just dealing with people. When you deal with celebrities, it's an experience. I think all my PR colleagues will say the same. It's like, it's not like anything other that you've ever dealt with. So either you're going to love it and just like embrace the suck, or it's just like, yeah, you're just not going to be for it. It's a lot, a lot of egos with that. And then some are just very cool people, but at the end of the day, they're just people. And that's how I approach all of them, is that, at the end of the day, yeah, you're a very rich person. You got much more zeros in your account than I do. However, you are just a person at the end of the day. So I'm not going to treat you as this giant dragon that, oh my gosh, how am I going to defeat this thing? Just look at it as just a person to person. What do you need? What can I help you with? How can I help you with your comms? Because you're hiring us to do this. So what can we do to support you? This is what we're recommending, and just kind of approaching it from there. But that it kind of encompasses just what it was like in those first early years of just getting in the space. It was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of, let me work this room a little bit, see what I can make shake. Let me see this industry. Do I like it? Do I not like it? And, if I didn't, I moved on to the next one. Okay, let's see what this industry within the larger space of communication, if this is the best fit for me. And entertainment is kind of where I just landed on naturally. I started there, and it's so funny, I'm ending in entertainment. and
Mhm.
lifestyle brands. But yeah, that was kind of the early days. And I feel like I've been talking so long. Now, your second question.
Yeah. So, how did you take all of that experience and decide, you know what, I'm going to take this leap and I'm going to start my own agency? Because that is, as somebody who's
Yeah.
taken the leap from corporate America before, like that's a high pressure
Yeah.
move in and of itself. And it
Yeah.
comes with a lot of things that maybe you don't expect along the way that kind of pop
Yeah.
up and meet you after the fact. So, like, what made
Yeah.
you decide, you know what, I'm going to take the leap, I'm going to accept what comes with it, I'm going to
Yeah.
go for it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yes. Goodness. And I got to that point too. I just stopped there. Okay. So, what prompted me to jump into entrepreneurship and start Brandinc PR? It's crazy enough. I am an accidental entrepreneur. It wasn't really intentional to jump into entrepreneurship. It was just kind of like, well, the train's moving, like I got to get a move on.
Mhm.
But what prompted me to really start it, at that time, I was working for a chamber of commerce and I had just been promoted to their VP of communications. I had worked there for about a year and a half. And based on the experience that I had, I brought a lot to the table, but I also was able to completely transform their communications and their image within the organization within that short period of time. But honestly, when you look at my track record and just the different organizations that I've worked with, that was always the case. Within about a year or two, and maybe even lower than that, I was able to hit strides in areas and things that they had never seen before. And especially with someone young, the expectation was, oh, you really don't know what you're talking about. And you're just kind of gassing us up. And it's like, no, I actually do. And then here's why, because I actually did it. And here's what you just need to do to tweak it. There was the level of experience, but there also for me has always been this intuition that I've had. It's a feeling like I think we need to just tweak this just a little bit. Are you sure? Well, why? And what's the data to support? It's like just tweak this one thing, and I think we'll be good. And in each time that I followed that intuition, it has always ended up extremely well for me and extremely well for my clients as well as employees that I worked with and colleagues and all of that good stuff. And when I don't, well, we know what happens with that. It backfires and it's a complete mess.
Yeah.
And so with this particular company, I had gotten them to the point where they had been nationally recognized and gotten 5-star accreditation per the work that I produced for them. And I'll never forget reading the packet that let us know that we had won it. They included in there, your communications plan was the best that we've ever seen. And that to me was like, okay, I am making an impact here. All right. So I'm not too young. And mind you, I was in my late 20s at that time. So it's just like, but I was surrounded by boomers. So everything like younger than them is, oh, you whippersnapper. And I'm like, been here almost 30 years. Like, stop. So that being said, gotten a lot of recognition very, very early on. So within this position, right, they created this role for me. It never existed before. And it was literally as a result of my work that they created it. So became the VP of communications and was to take on just the overall campaigning at a higher scale. Well, when you get into C-suite level leadership, especially on corporate side, you learn that you get access to more information. And so for me, I got access to more and I did my own little digging. And when I started digging, dug into the budget. And that's where I found that not only was I getting paid extremely low to almost all of my male counterparts, I was also the most decorated and in terms of like achievement, education wise. I was the only one that was actually qualified for my role in the position that I was. When you compared myself to all of my other colleagues, there were several that didn't have the degrees, and there were several that actually didn't have experience in their exact role that they were in, yet they were getting paid to the tune of, at a minimum, it was like 10, 20,000, and some were like almost 40,000 more than me and doing very, very similar work. So you kind of do the math, it was a significant difference. But so with that, when I saw it that day, I just kind of looked at it and I was like, this sucks. So I've basically been taken advantage of. They've been taking me for a ride, and I should have known when they were just praising me so much. Oh, you're doing so great, and you have so much potential, which I'm sure we can talk about that later because I did a whole video about this. Oh, you have so much potential. You just need to do this one thing, and then you just be there. But that one thing kept becoming another thing. So I was never to the point where I reached my potential, but it was almost, when I look back, that carrot dangling in front of me to keep me at that productivity and that rate that they wanted me to, but not enough to where they weren't giving me enough to where I would still kind of be in that position and mindset that I didn't think that I could do more. I would just keep going after that carrot and think, okay, well, I've just got one more. Oh, all of that good stuff. So I took that and I just looked at it and I was like, this really sucks, but here is my crossroad moment. Like, I can stay here and continue to be undercompensated, continue to be undervalued. And by this point, I did argue pay. I did argue because I know a lot of folks say, oh, well, if you didn't follow up with them, like, you can't complain. It's like, actually, I did. And they wanted to hit me with the pandemic and no money. And I'm like, you do realize I have access to this now. Like, so I see the PPE loan that you got for over $2 million. Do we have to play this game? Like, you do have the money. And it's actually money for employees that are no longer there. And I noticed that several companies did that. It's just totally, totally wrong and unfortunate. But, having done that, one day I went into the office and I just felt like it was my time to go. I got in there, sat my stuff down, was kind of going through the same old. And I was just like, you know what? I think I'm done. Like, I have nothing else to give to this. They're clearly not invested in me. What am I doing wasting my time? So I sent out my 2 weeks. I left within a matter of days because you're not going to keep somebody around that already put in their 2 weeks. Got out of there. And then within the week, I applied for my LLC, got that done. And I just started calling my network like crazy. Like, hey, I just started Brandinc PR. It's my new PR agency. I'm repping this type of client, doing this type of work. And I want to help you. If you need an extra hand in this, if you need some extra support, I'd love to, have a conversation. Hire me to consult. I'm happy to do that as well. Or if you need me to come teach your employees how to do certain things, I'm happy to do that too. And that's what really kicked everything off. When in a matter of weeks, I had my first clients. And then I'd say about month 7 is where I actually reached and hit 6 figures. And that was mostly me that was working to get to that point. Yeah. So no team, no like tons of people. It was really just me and maybe a contractor from time to time on something that I can't really do myself. But that was what I was able to achieve within a matter of months. The most that I ever made in a single job in my entire career, I made it as an entrepreneur. And how I got to that was betting on myself. I could have stayed in that position making over 50% less of what I made in that 7 month and continue to be stressed out. I was working easily 60 hours a week. I was putting in time. I would remember literally working over the weekends, after events, pre-events, putting together events, prepping the CEO so they can go interview, the whole 9. I was doing that round the clock and barely had time with my family. And then on top of that, not getting paid much, which was even worse. But, it was one of those things that it needed to happen. And it was certainly that, again, fork in the road of what do we want to do here? We can continue to ride this wave and sit in almost the security of I've got a 9 to 5, but not looking at the bigger picture. Mental health was one. Compensation was a big one because that can impact your mental health, and a variety of other things. But ultimately, those major areas, those do matter. But more importantly, it just seemed like it was the time. And mind you, pandemic was still fresh at that time. So everything was digital. So, I worked the virtual room as much as I could. But I think that everything for real happens for a reason. And I think that was needed for me to be able to pivot into entrepreneurship. So that's why I say I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I would have never guessed 6 years later that I would still be here or that I would have started my own business. I was a rule follower. I go to college, I got to finish. You're like a true millennial in peak, right?
Yep.
You got to go to college if you want to get the better job. I went 3 times.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
The most money that I've ever gotten wasn't the traditional route, but it was the entrepreneurial route. It was the unconventional route that got me those opportunities. And I'm just very, very fortunate for it. But looking back at everything, it definitely just opens my eyes so much more to why, this needed to be the way it was, why education is so important. Getting and developing your skills is so important. There's not a cap to that. You need to always be learning. But being able to be an entrepreneur, like I would have never guessed that for myself. I never thought I would have the bandwidth or honestly the grit to do it, but here I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
And
your story is really resonant because I think we've all experienced that a time or two in a corporate job, right? Where we
yeah,
know we're outperforming our original job title, right? And
yeah,
we know we're bringing value to the table, but there's no advancement there. Before the second attempt at taking the leap for me, there have been three. I'm still on the third. But I
hmm
remember I was doing PR marketing for a television station up in Pennsylvania.
hmm
And I like over time, and there were a lot of factors that led to me taking a similar leap, but like I had acquired so many more roles within that job because you're talking a nonprofit for the
hmm
same amount of pay. And it kind of reached a breaking point where I was pretty much like, like here's where I started, here's where I am. I'm still making
yeah,
the same money. And the
hmm
station had also gotten an enormous windfall
yeah,
of cash. And so I knew that because I
yeah,
helped with the PR and the marketing around it. And I'm
yeah,
like, hey, I know we
yeah,
just got all that money. So could you at least bump me up to this? They
yep,
refused. And then I'm like, well, then there's my answer. And I took
yeah.
the leap and I had no plan. And, that's why I needed one
No,
more leap to get it right. But
yeah,
you still go through, the cognitive dissonance of that, right? Where it's like, I
yeah,
know that there's more out there for me
hmm
and it's more than they're going to give me because they're used to me over here. They're used to me
yep,
just going and plugging away and doing it for whatever I'm being paid. They're not
hmm
concerned about giving me a raise. They want to get as much out of me as they can for the
yep,
time that they can for the amount that they're paying me. So at that point, then entrepreneurial spirit kind of becomes unearthed, if it's within
yep,
you, right? And you're just like, you
yep,
know what? I know there's a better answer and I
yeah,
might fall on my face, but I'm going to go in search of that answer. And that's what you've
yeah.
done and done so very successfully. And another note is somewhere along the line in late 2022, you happened across a music blog in Nashville, Tennessee, and reached out. And I opened the email and I'm like, you know what? Let's
Yep,
give this a shot. And I will say, you have done a spectacular job bringing visibility to us, starting with that time. I tell you all the time, you made filet mignon out of hamburger helper and really gave us some direction. And so Brandi does great work. Brandi and her team do great work. Everybody listening, everybody watching right now. And the success is very well deserved. And certainly it comes with a lot of lessons along the way that you've learned.
hmm
And so I think one lesson that certainly you've learned along the way that prospective clients or even current ones, could always stand to keep in mind is what the job of a PR agency is and what the job of a
yeah.
PR agency is not. So I know we've talked about this before. So take us through what you do and how that sometimes contrasts with people's expectations coming in.
Of course, of course. Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm happy to. So, specifically, what I do is I help brands and public figures with their communication. Now, that can entail a lot. It could be in the form of events like pop up launches, like press conferences, red carpets, but it could also be in the form of actual messaging, like what you're saying on social media, on your website. When you're preparing for a speech, I support in that way. But overall, because media now is expanding so much, the biggest piece of what I do is I help to connect brands and public figures with media outreach. What ways that we can connect your story to the media who is putting it out there to the public and to the masses. That's kind of the simplest way to describe what I do. The things that I hear often, especially within prospect calls of, do you guys do this? Do you do that? So we're not a manager. I'm not a manager. And this is especially important for musicians because I think that they look at the expectation that a publicist is going to be your manager. And I can see where it comes from, right? Because we do manage the communications of our person. So there is a lot of facets to that when managing that. We're getting up in the morning to get you prepped for an interview, likely accompanying you to that interview. We're prepping you for an event, all of that good stuff. So I could see the connection there where people would think that, oh, well, you're managing that person to an extent, but not in the way that you think. So we don't get you or book you showcases. I'm not going to get you on Coachella. That's not where my skill set is. That's a manager. And honestly, I think you'll know this better than me. I think that's the promoter, possibly.
Yeah. Booking agent, manager.
Booking agent. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's more that person. Booking agent, and in reverse, oftentimes they'll get confused with a publicist with a booking agent because they see, oh, you get them on shows and you know this person and you know that. So you're probably PR too. Absolutely not. A booking agent is there to book. They're a booker. That's it. They're there to get the shows done, get you paid, and get their percentage, and then they leave. That's their job. Our role is to get you out there in terms of the media. And that's where our primary focus is. So the things that I hear, that's one, that we're a booking agent. Being a manager, that's another. I call it the water to wine situation, hiring a publicist. And so you're going to get me on Joe Rogan right now, right? Or you're going to get me on
Wave the magic wand.
Yeah. I love the Tamron Hall show. Can you get me on there? Or Drew Barrymore's show? Like, I want to be on there tomorrow. And it's like, first of all, that's not how their schedule works. That's not how that works. And then two, there is a variety of factors that you have to consider in looking at national opportunities. The first one is that many of those national spots, they look for guests that already have some traction, right? So meaning they already have some stories that have been written about them. They've already connected on a national level before. So there is a level of credibility they connect to you to be able to say, okay, this is like a verified person as opposed to just a random that they just pop up on there. And it's for good reason, because if you haven't handled a national placement or a national media, it's a beast. People freeze up. People get uncomfortable, may get asked a weird question, and they're not really fully prepared, even with media training. You have to really go through the processes and steps to get more comfortable with being in front of the camera in general. National is where it's like, we're pros here. At this point, if you're here, you already know you've got less than a minute to show up and show out. So they wouldn't let you on there if they didn't think or were confident that you could do that. So that's something that people have to really think about when they're thinking of this too. But definitely the water to wine situation, they think they're immediately going to get there. And that's not quite the case. There's even some celebrity adjacent folks now that can't get it. And some of that has to do with their story, but others have to do with the level of credibility that they have. So I always encourage folks that are considering, hiring a PR team or a publicist, that one, just look at where you're at in terms of your brand and your business right now. What have you done so far? Where have you been featured so far? And sharing that with that person so that they know, like, just where are you at? You don't want to hire a publicist when you have an idea or you just, came out with your first song. I think that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. That is not the time to hire a publicist. The time to hire a publicist is when you've kind of got a decent footing going where they can pivot and take it to that next level. Not in the very beginning when you really don't have an audience, you really don't have a following, you really don't even have music. Especially within the entertainment space, if you don't have any body of work that they could actually assess and really look at and experience themselves, you don't need to be worried about publicists. You need to be worried about your craft. That's where your focus should be on. So probably saving a lot of people some money here. But, I know that there's PR agencies out there that like anytime is the time for a publicist. And I'm the one that's going to say no, anytime is not. Right now, you need to build your foundation. Once you get your foundation that is very clear, you have a clear story, clear identity, you can give your 30-second pitch of who you are, what you do, what you offer. That may be the time when you're ready to go. If you don't have that to go, then no, that you need to work on the foundation. That's where the primary focus should be so that you can be successful when you do hire a publicist.
Well, that's perfect because that was actually my next question, which is how do you know when you're ready to hire a PR agency? And you just nailed
Yeah.
it, two in one. But some
Yeah.
commentary, just to piggyback off of something,
Yeah.
the water to wine syndrome, because we see it all the time too. Like, hey, can you help me go viral? Can you get me on this festival? Can you get me this, can you get me that huge opportunity? Can you get me on
Yeah.
this huge stage?
Yeah.
What's your body of work? It's the same thing on the management end, because that's,
Yeah.
a role I've adopted over the past couple of years for a few artists. And there's a difference between the artist who's ready to be managed and the artist who's not ready for a manager.
Yep.
And if you don't have a business to manage, this is the golden rule, right? If you don't have a business to manage,
Yep.
then you are not ready for a manager. You might need some consulting. You might need some, to build your team in other ways, but
Yeah.
somebody to align you with major opportunities before you really even have a body of work to present and state your case for those opportunities. You're just
Yeah.
going to be hitting a brick wall. And that's where like the resentment comes in of like, oh,
Yeah.
well, this person didn't do their job.
They didn't do anything. Yep.
It's not that they didn't do their job. It's that there
Yep.
was no job for them to do.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, I
So,
love that.
it's, and here's the thing too, like, okay, let's say, even if I could make you go viral, right? Putting the social media hat on, if there's nothing there to catch that attention and help build that momentum, if there's no structure, right? Then what's the viral moment for? What goes up will come down, right? And I mean, we've firsthand experienced that before, on our end, where it's like, we weren't ready for certain opportunities in the sense of how do we build this momentum. The business wasn't structured to that point yet. So I'm speaking from experience here. Like, you want to make sure you at least have the systems in place to do something with the attention, right?
Yeah.
That you're going to get from, higher profile opportunities, whether that's through a PR agency, whether it's through a manager or booking agent.
Yeah.
Like, you need something in place there to catch that and build from. Otherwise, it's just going to be a flash in the pan moment. That's why
Mhm.
flashes in the pan happen, because the person who had that moment wasn't ready to capitalize on it.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I think that's so well said. It's one of the things that, unfortunately, with social media, it creates a lot of misconceptions of how things work. And, conversations like these, I think, are so important because you can have real expertise and real experts talking about this is what it is and this is what it's not. And this is how you really should approach it based on just where you fall in terms of your entrepreneur journey, your music journey, and where you need to start plugging in the pieces of those folks that can help build to where you want to be at, and just build upon those goals and objectives. But these conversations are important to have to hopefully combat the crazy misinformation that's shared on social media of how going viral works. There's so many, different advice columns and 3-day challenges and all of this other stuff. And none of them account for the fact that we're not in control of any of this because the algorithm is constantly changing. Literally, the algorithm is designed for the individual. And then, of course, the platforms themselves have their specific form in their algorithm. So you're battling a lot of things. It's equivalent to me and hitting the lottery.
Yeah.
Some will get it, some will not. But there are certain patterns you can see and observe that the ones that go viral have. But for the most part, it's not this cookie cutter thing that if I pay this $15, because it's always something cheap, just pay $15 and we'll tell you exactly how to go viral. If it was that easy, then everybody be doing it. And if it was that easy, then do you think that it was going to be something easily attainable? We know life. We may not know social media algorithms, metrics, platforms, but what we do know this in life is that usually the things that you have or that come really easy are not going to be good in the long run. Like it's usually not going to end up well. If it's just like, oh, that was just easy enough, it's probably good. Something bad is going to happen. And that could just be my intuition. But I look back again, just in instances, and I just say, it just seems like we all can relate to that. Oh, I got the $15 manager, and that was going to be a great experience. I got a $5 pair of shoes that said it's going to take me to work and do this. Okay.
And then they fell apart after a month because you paid $5 for them.
I'm just saying, like, come on. Nothing, it's never that easy. And anything that's easy like that, you probably don't want it.
All these hacks sound great when you're trying to sell courses or when you're desperate enough to, be like searching for that kind of quick fix answer, right?
Yep.
And that happens a lot with people that don't have the experience, right? And they're looking like, well, I saw so and so do this and they just blew up overnight. So like if I do this, that means I'm going to blow up overnight. First of
Yep.
all, they did not blow up overnight. There's no such thing as overnight success. It took them 10, 11, 12, 15 years to get to the
Yep.
point where they are of grinding it out and figuring it out just like you are. And you learn
Yep.
that the process is the thing,
Yep.
right? Over time. And but that doesn't hook you in the first 3 seconds, right? What hooks you in the first
Yep.
3 seconds is if you want the secret to your 7-figure life, you're going to buy this course. And there is no secret. The secret is
Yep.
consistency, hard
Yep.
work, diligence, and lining up enough of the right ducks in a row over
Yep.
time to gain some momentum, right?
Yep.
And to keep yourself at the heart of it, right? And to
Mhm.
keep your brand and your story at the heart of it, which in this age of AI is becoming increasingly important to really make
Yep.
sure that you're speaking from yourself and from a place of your own values. And so how is that shift, help shift your industry and the work that you do, with the rise of AI and there's so much, quick fix, solutions for
Hmm.
just about anything creative right now, even if they're not
Yep.
really solutions, like they
Yep.
purport themselves as that. Like, why is it important to still engage in that process of, hands-on public relations, of hands-on storytelling from the heart authentically? And how does that help you stand out in this age where there is more and more content promotion, everything that's, coming out looking all uniform and the same because it was generated by a robot, say?
Yeah, yeah. Well, to start with, I think the authenticity aspect is so, so important. Bring yourself to your brand, bring yourself to how you show up online, because it does matter and it is a differentiator, right? I can speak to this study that was recently conducted. I believe it was over 1,000 people were surveyed for this, but they found that less than 2% of the surveyors actually purchase product that was recommended by an AI generated source. So search engine, one of those crazy videos that you see on your news feed or, a little bot, only less than 2% actually did make a purchase based on that. So what to me that says that consumers are much smarter than we think. We are consumers as well,
Uh,
but they're smarter than we think. And that authenticity again should be your primary focus and target, not the simplification of a task to save you money or to be more efficient in time. Okay. Like, cause that's really what it comes down to. People create these things because they don't want to hire a graphic designer. They don't want to hire a photographer. They don't want to hire a videographer. So what's a quick, cheap way that I can do this? Oh, this AI app is telling me that if I tell it something, it's going to spit it out, jumble it together and give it to me right there. Oh, I've got a post for our social media for our company. What happens is you do that so long, and then you come to my agency and you're like, hey, we're just not getting any likes, we're not getting any follows, we're not getting any of this. And we do an audit and we pinpoint this exact problem. You're not authentic. All I see if I go on your profile is just AI images. I'm going to think that one, you're inauthentic. Number two, I'm going to think that you might not be real. And there's a study on that one too, that there's folks that feel like when they see AI, there is a level of distrust for it because they think that but it's fair, right? I'm seeing something, but it's not real. It's something that has been fabricated. It's something that has been created for this purpose. And so when we get into purchase decisions, whether it's buying your mixtape or buying your album or going to your showcase, that makes a big difference for people. Because I've started to see club flyers that use all AI too. And I kind of have to side eye it because where's the real people? And if you've been doing this as long as you said you had, why don't you have pictures from your old events where you can include them in the flyer? I'm just saying it's inauthentic. So I definitely think it's been a challenge because people have been riding the wave that is AI and basically, oh, this is way cheaper than hiring a comms agent, a marketing agency, a manager. I can do all this with AI. But I think that we're at that point now that there's still some that are very adamant of this and to save money and whatever it is, efficiency, whatever it is that they're looking for with these AI tools. But I think that now they're starting to wake up and see that their content isn't performing the way that it needs to. Their engagement isn't performing the way it needs to. And it's because they have been basically presenting themselves inauthentically, and it shows the algorithm is no longer pushing their content and people are no longer engaging with them as a result. So it's been definitely a learning experience. And certainly that's why we've invested so much in education and resources to really share with people and break down this is what you need to be doing in combating the age, I guess, of AI that we're in. But the main advice that we typically share, it starts with authenticity. If we can't see who you are within the first couple seconds of looking at your page, looking you up online when we're doing our brand audits, that's a problem because if we're doing that as experts in the space and looking at it, I can't imagine what a consumer is doing. They probably maybe an extra second or actually maybe a less a second because we're giving you an extra second to look because we're looking for something. But the consumer is going on there like, oh, it's got too much AI on there. It's got the little robot man. Okay, we're good. Yeah, I'm going to go where there's real people and real conversations. So yeah, but you see that even with brands and how they're communicating. I love the fast food wars. McDonald's says something, then Burger King says something, then Wendy's jumps in, and then Arby's for whatever reason. I do like their roast beef sandwich. I don't care, and I don't care who knows it, but that's the only thing I like there. But you see them showing up authentically, and you see how people engage with them. What brands and really what founders can really learn from this case study is simply that when you show up authentically, look at the response that you get as opposed to being the person that is using cutting corner tools, right? Using these images that aren't your stock images to talk about your business. You're not really presenting yourself because now you're using ChatGPT also for your content, which we all can tell. I wish that would stop too. We can all tell. Hey guys, da, da, da. And then you've got the bullets and then you've got all these emojis like stop. We can all tell.
Don't forget the
Yes,
dashes.
the dashes.
Yep.
It's very obvious.
Yep.
And you sound just like eerily like another business kind of similar in your industry. So you know what that tells them too? Y'all are all just copy pasting the same content and information that you're putting and asking ChatGPT to build. And you're wondering why no one's engaging with you. You're doing the exact same thing as all the other ones that have just taken AI and used it as a replacement and not the tool that it actually is meant to be. So to sum all of that up, I think the authenticity piece is the biggest one that can help combat this and really, really just educating brands and letting them know like this is how you present online. But even if you can't get an audit done, just look at your page. What is it that people are engaging with? Are they engaging with the AI pictures that you put away on there? Or are you getting someone to engage with you on the real pictures that you're showing in the real videos? If it's the latter, then what do you think you need to do? It's very simple, but people make it hard.
Yeah, you got to be real. And that's something I think a lot of us in our industry, in the music industry, are really pushing back now because, I mean, this isn't even it's a whole different conversation to get into how the industry is using AI to push out the creative and the musician, right? So that's a totally different episode. But, as far as like wanting to create real experiences, real content, real things for people to tap into, like that spirit within the independent rungs of our industry, I feel is more pronounced than it's been in years. Because I think during COVID, we all got so comfortable just doing everything on screens that
Yep.
that's where tech kind of took that and ran with it, right? But
Yep.
now we as, creators, as musicians, as, all the folks who make up this industry and truly make it what it is, like we're pushing back on that now because we realize that there is no art without artists. There is no
Yep.
creativity without actual creators and people
Yep.
honing that craft and adding their unique voice to the conversation, to the larger
Hmm.
conversation, right? And so authenticity, of course, is more important than ever, and it's always been important because there's only
Yep.
one you, and only you can
Yep.
tell your story as you can tell it and have it resonate in the way that you can. But
Hmm.
it's now serving in contrast to all of this stuff that is very clearly manufactured.
Yep. Yes, clearly manufactured. So, I love that there's more studies coming out, more reports, just to kind of support what we've all been sensing and feeling like it. These folks aren't getting any type of engagement, yet
Mhm.
they're producing like crazy, which, hey, you check the box. You've been consistent on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You make a post, or you do a post at this time and this time, all AI images, all AI content. How come I'm not getting any engagement? Well, that was your first problem, and probably posting too much. But the first one, really, everything is AI.
Mhm.
Who are you as a person? Who are you as a brand? And how can anyone connect with a brand that isn't really expressing themselves as such, but really it's a robot expressing what they think? That's inauthentic. And honestly, it's hard to connect with a robot because a robot doesn't have the emotions that a human does, and certainly not the insight that a human does. That's what you should be bringing forth to the table. And you get very much better results when you do this and approach it that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're teaching independent artists to approach it that way. We're actually teaming up on this. So perfect
Yes.
segue. PR for indie artists. It is a webinar that you have made available graciously for an exclusive discount for our underdogs community. And so independent artists, are trying to navigate this space, right? And they're trying to figure out how to gain more publicity, more traction for their work, so they can continue to grow in their careers. And of course, PR is a very important part of that. So you've developed this webinar, and it's an hour-long webinar that takes independent artists and creatives through the steps. So tell us a little bit about it, what we can expect for from the course, and of course, you get it at a deep discount as an underdog. Information is on the blog and in the description of this episode. But Brandi, in your own words, tell us about PR for indie artists.
Yes, yes. So it's definitely along the lines of a series of just educational resources that we've been developing and working on the last few months because we saw a true need for just better tools for professionals in every category with every aspect of entertainment. And what I really, really enjoyed in putting this one together was definitely being able to hone in and focus specifically on the indie artists. What are the things that you need to know when you are getting started? You have a great product, but you don't know where to begin when it comes to your marketing and more specifically your PR. And in the webinar, I take a deep dive into every aspect of this is what you need to do to be successful as you're kind of doing these things yourself. And this is coming from someone that has worked in this space as long as I have with artists like yourself. These are the things that you need to know. So there's a lot of to dos, there's a lot of to don'ts. There is a lot of specific strategies and tactics that are explored within the webinar that we break down or I break down very explicitly so that you feel comfortable in what you're doing. But I think overall, the biggest thing is that and I was very intentional when I created it, that it didn't come across like rocket science. It didn't come across as this super expert breaking this down at their level and not at mine. So I brought it down to a way that at the most basic level for just an indie artist, I don't do any of this PR stuff. This is not my vibe. I am an artist at heart. I broke it down for that person so that they could take away helpful information, but actually could realistically apply them exactly where they're at in terms of their brand and their process. So yeah, ton of really really, really great information, a lot of takeaways, a lot of good to dos, and action items, real actionable steps that will get you on your way to where you need to be, where you can manage these things on your own until you're ready to hire a team to help support you as you kind of pivot into that next level. So I'm excited that we were able to put this together and exclusively for the UMC members. And yeah, just very, very fortunate that we're at this point where we can do things like that. But education is absolutely number one priority this year. And I'm glad that we could start with this and provide this for the membership community.
And so, if you're not an underdog yet, there's another reason to become an underdog, and plenty more reasons are coming to become an underdog in addition to the ones that already exist. If you are an underdog, you have access to this. You already know it's in the app. So make sure that you get your hands on PR for indie artists. This is going to help you on your way. Trust me, because not only am I a supporter of this, but I am also a client. And Brandi knows what she's doing. So definitely you want to get your hands on this and just take in all the knowledge and apply it, because it's super, super valuable. And Brandi, thank you for offering that to our community, of course. We've got a couple minutes left here. One question I want to ask you,
Okay.
that I love asking every guest to the show toward the end. I call it the biggest lesson. And so if you could go back and teach the most important lesson you've learned on your journey thus far to your younger self, what would that lesson be?
Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, there's so many lessons that come to mind. I think the first one, I'll go with my first one. Be confident, don't be cocky. I was the epitome of that millennial. It was our era, right? There was a level of cockiness that we had, and I absolutely did have it. At that point, I'd already been working in this space for a few years. I've already worked with some great organizations. I had some skills and some experience in my back pocket. So I was looking like, you can't pay me this. I'm Brandi Sims, and that I think there was a level of cockiness that I have that I would tell myself, now that I'm at this position going back, I would say, you be confident. There's nothing wrong with confidence. Be confident in what you can produce, be confident in what you bring to the table, but you don't need to be cocky. People can understand and you communicate that confidence to the ones that need to hear it and need to see it. Cockiness is the ones that you feel like people can't see it. So you need to overextend and overdo it to show like, hey, you don't need to do all of that bravado. Those that get it, and they will take it for what it is and they'll work with that. But when you get cocky, you lose a lot of the message and you lose a lot of the person that you're trying to connect with, the audience that you're trying to connect with, when you almost seem like you're too good for this. And that's not a way to build relationships, and that's not a way to build community. So I definitely would say, hey, watch it, like you chill out, confidence is okay, but cockiness, go ahead and ease that back. And then the other thing would be, honestly, in that same vein, I would say, don't let, the potential talk get you in a prison, and specifically in a mental prison. As I mentioned before, constantly being told, oh, you have so much potential, Brandi. Oh, you have so much potential. If you just do this thing, Brandi. I had heard that throughout my career. Oh, if you just do this. And you'll be able to get to this promotion, or we'll be able to give you this, and just that dangling of that carrot. And I think that hindered me a lot, because I always looked at myself as if I wasn't doing enough. And when I look back at my career and I look back at all the things that I achieved very early on and continue to achieve, that should have been my example to say that, hey, I'm kind of exactly where I need to be. And, obviously everybody's got potential for things, but not in the way that they're using it. They're using it to entice me to do more and go more and further along, but I'm already doing exceedingly well. And I would say that to myself because, and I've shared this before in another video, that if you feel like, when you hear those statements about, oh, you have so much potential, oh, you could just do so much more, or you just got to do this extra certificate, or if you hear all this, look at yourself and look at your track record. If you didn't have the level of success and results to support what you've gotten to and what you've done so far, then it wouldn't make sense. You wouldn't have gotten all of those things if there was so much potential and you could be so much better. You've already done the things. You've already shown up and you've already shown that you're capable and you absolutely can do it. Right? You've already shown that. So you really have to question the person that's saying and making those statements that you have this potential. What is their intention for you? Do they actually want you to grow in your professional career and your overall personal development, or they just want to keep you in this bubble, keep you in this mental prison where eventually and I really truly believe this is where imposter syndrome came from. The feeling that you don't belong here. Well, guess where that comes from? Being told frequently that, oh, well, if you just did this one thing. Oh, okay, I did the thing. Oh, well, if you just did this other thing. And now you've spent your entire career constantly trying to achieve something that you're never going to achieve because they keep moving the freaking goalposts because they want to keep you exactly where you're at. I have 3 degrees before I was 35. I've worked with national brands. I've gotten 5-star accreditations. Heck, when I got into sales for a little bit, I had made one company over $600,000 in 2 years. And you're telling me, oh, if you would just do these extra things, potential, I've already done it. I've already shown that I can do it. So I definitely, that advice I would take to myself and really share that with myself and just remind, like, keep doing what you're doing, but don't let them dangle that carrot over you. If you're doing what you need to do and you're getting those results, okay, you're getting somewhere and you're getting further along than you think. I think that would be it. And honestly, for anyone else that's feeling that way or has been in that perpetual cycle of, oh, you have so much potential, I think it's BS. And I think it is, I feel like it's something that has absolutely fueled this imposter syndrome era that we've been in, where we've got all these folks feeling like they don't belong. Yet they have an incredible track record and they don't even want to take credit for that because they've been told this whole time, like, oh, well, you did that. But if you just did this, no, I did this. And there's a percentage of the world that has not been able to achieve this. That's worth noting.
Yeah.
And especially being an entrepreneur, that's worth noting. Not everybody will last the first year, let alone 3, let alone, it gets smaller and smaller. But you've achieved that. You got to give yourself credit for it.
This kind of brings to mind, too, for me, as my client and friend Ty Warner says, this is going to be a bombshell statement. But it always seems that the person that's trying to keep you in that box also, they're afraid of losing you as you are, right? Like they want to keep you under their thumb a lot of the time because they have a specific purpose that they know that you are capable of fulfilling for them. But if you realize you're capable of more, you're going to leave. And also, a lot of times these folks try to position it, and this is a big thing in the personal development guru space, that, oh, well, you just need this thing. Oh, and I have this thing for you. So if you pay me this,
dangle that carrot.
Dangle the carrot and keep moving the goalposts. And you need another thing and you need another thing, like keeping you in this slightly broken state where you always think you need something else before you're going to be ready to get out from under their thumb. And as somebody who has experienced this in corporate America, as somebody who has experienced this in this industry, like those people are out there and they are a threat to your self-worth and your mental health. And the sooner you can get away from them, do it. Do it. You will thank yourself. Like, do it. I think that is such a beautiful way to bring this all full circle because ultimately, like, you have to bet on yourself. And I think that might be the title of this episode, something to that effect. We are about up on time here. I gotta, of course, clear the room out for the next person. But before we go, Brandi, just want to give you a chance to tell people where we can learn more about you online.
Yes, yes, of course, of course. Well, I want to thank you first for allowing me to be on here and just having a conversation like we always do and really diving deep into these things. So I really appreciate you. And for folks that want to connect, you can absolutely connect with me on LinkedIn, Brandi Sims. And you can also check out our website, brandinc.pr.com. If you want to get a hold of some of our resources like the UMC indie webinar that we have available, as well as our pitch kit that, is an incredible tool for those that are pitching on their own or trying to do DIY some stuff. We have those available at really, really great rates. And you can find them at brandingpr.com/resources. And then, of course, check out the podcast. The Brandinc PR podcast is available on all streaming platforms, Apple, you name it, like all the things, all of those things. But definitely, if you have questions or, you need some support, happy to support you in any way that we can. And yeah, check out the resources, especially if you're one that has listened today and just been like, I'm trying to figure it out, but I know I don't have the budget. That's literally why we created these resources, because there are certain foundational basic things that you should know before you even get into the PR, marketing, managing, all of these things. There's foundational things that you need to know. And that's what we have to help you to get you to that next level.
Right on. So make sure you go connect with Brandi, check it all out. It will be well worth your time. Brandi, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll definitely do this again.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right. I want to thank Brandi Sims for coming on the show. Of course, the founder of Brandinc PR based in Austin, Texas, and reaching far beyond Austin, Texas, including here in Nashville, Tennessee, and everywhere else. And of course, go check out brandincpr.com for all of your public relations needs. They are great. We've worked with Brandinc PR and Brandi for years now. Highly, 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 highly recommended. And this has been the Quinn Spinn, 2 N's and Quinn, 2 N's and Spin. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Also on the socials at Quinn Spinn Official on Instagram and the Quinn Spinn on Facebook, the first ever page, social media page, whatever you want to call it, in UMC history. What is UMC, by the way? UMC stands for Underground Music Collective. It's your central hub for all things independent music, creativity, community, and more. UMCworldwide.com and UMC Worldwide on most of the socials. And stay tuned because we have something huge coming next week that you're not going to want to miss. This has been, speaking of things that have been a long time coming, this has been a long time coming, and I'm super, super excited to let you in on the details. Make sure you become an underdog, by the way, community.umcworldwide.com. That's your way to hear it all first and have first access to all of the opportunities here in the UMC universe. Revel 9's All Become going to take us out like it brought us in. Grab some muffins on your way out.